So I want to talk about something I think that's very important that some people, if you've just started investing into this bull market, may not really think about. So at some point in time, which nobody knows when, I know some people are saying that it's starting right now, some people saying, oh, it's going to happen maybe in the next era. The market's going to go down at some point, right? It's going to happen. It's inevitable, right? But it's just a guess of when it's going to happen. Is it going to happen like in a few months? Is it going to happen in 6 months, a year? Nobody knows, but you should be preparing for the time when the market starts going down because some people that have just entered this market, this bull market, thinks that maybe it's going to be like this forever. Oh, this is just how it is, but it's not, right? If you were here in the beginning of Scarlet and Violet, you know very well that this market is not normal and eventually it will go away. It's just a matter of time. And people out there are guessing when it's going to happen. I've made my guesses, but in reality, nobody really knows. But like I said, you got to prepare before it happens, and it's never really too early to prepare for this. And I think it's very important that people out there do this because you might face these issues when they come to you, and you don't want to be, not prepared for the time if you need to sell something and you really can't. So, in this video, I want to talk about how it's really important to get some sort of traction, some sort of, I guess, reliability, some sort of credibility on the internet, specifically on online platforms like eBay. How this will be very important to have when the market has a downturn, and I'm going to explain why that's very important. And I've been doing this myself because I haven't really sold many of any sealed products online. I don't think I've actually ever sold anything online before. I plan on in the future, yeah, I probably will, but as of recent, I have not sold anything online. But I have been, I guess, building my credibility on eBay by selling some stuff. So I'm going to talk about that. But I first want to talk about how right now the market is really good and how you may have not even explored that idea of maybe even selling online. For example, LCSs and LGSs. As of right now, a lot of LCSs and LGSs are, buying products for pretty good percentages off of market price. Why is that? It's because they can't order anything from distribution, right? There's really no TCG products of Pokemon at all at distribution. So these stores are having to buy from the open market. But how can these stores make any money just buying off of eBay or TCG Player? It's really not possible, right? So these stores are pretty much forced to buy from the open market, whether it be from scalpers, whomever. It doesn't matter. They need product because they literally can't buy from their distributor, which is the place that they're supposed to be able to buy product to resell and make money. So recently, a lot of these stores that used to maybe only pay maybe 50, 60% of market price for product in cash, some stores are paying anywhere from 70 to like 85% of market price in cash. And I've talked about it myself. The stores that I've sold to previously, I'm able to sell at about 80% market price and get in cash, which is great, right? So definitely people that have maybe bought some stuff, recently, maybe within the last 6 months, maybe a little bit more than that, maybe have been able to see some gains on their products, and you may have been able to sell some stuff. Let's say Surging Sparks, you were able to buy a booster box at $100, which wasn't impossible. If you went now and sold a Surging Sparks booster box at your local card store, let's say, at 80%, you're making about $100 profit because 80% of right now Surging Sparks, let's say it's 250, that's $200. 200 minus 100, you're making like $100, right? So it's so easy to just go into an LCS, an LGS, sell your, booster box, whatever product you have at 80%, whatever percentage they're selling at in cash. It's really great. And honestly, I've talked about it before. If you're selling a product at like 80% or more, you're basically getting the exact same amount you're going to get on eBay because eBay's, fees are like 13.25%. You have to pay for shipping. You do all that, and also 13.25% includes tax. You're pretty much you're coming out the same way if you're selling to an LCS at like 80%. or if you're just selling on eBay. It's pretty similar. So I've talked about that before and why I've recently just been able to just sell to my LCS and stuff. So that's a huge advantage right now of this market is that LCSs and LGSs, since they can't buy from distribution, you have the power being the seller to the LCS because they can't really buy anything from the distributor, and you're able to get a huge percentage of market price, and you can literally just offload a pretty large amount of product to a store, and you don't have to ship anything. So it's great. It's streamlined. It's easy. And the way I do it usually is just email the store. It's pretty streamlined and it's really simple. And you can usually sell products in large amounts, and it's great. So next, I want to talk about, I guess, another place you could sell product, to right now, is Facebook Marketplace. Now, Facebook Marketplace, it's right now filled with a bunch of scalpers. It is what it is, right? But right now on Facebook Marketplace, if you were to list pretty much anything, right, it's probably going to sell pretty quickly. Usually on Facebook Marketplace, you're listing, it depends what it is, but you're probably listing products at 80-90% of market price, and they'll sell relatively easily. It depends really what it is. If it's some Sword and Shield stuff like a booster box, like Lost Origin, if you're selling at 80-90%, it's probably going to sell pretty quickly. Other stuff like Prismatic sells pretty well. People right now are usually selling Prismatic at like 80-90% off market, and they move pretty quickly. So Facebook Marketplace is definitely another place you can sell right now. It's really simple. A lot of these things I'm showing you here, I guess I forgot to mention, you don't need any credibility, right? Selling to an LCS, an LGS, you could just be a random person. They'll buy from you, right? Facebook, you don't really need that much credibility. I've sold stuff. I have, 5-star reviews on my account, but you don't really need 5 stars of reviews to sell stuff. Like, you don't have to have that. You just have to have like a Facebook, profile that doesn't look sketchy, and that's kind of it. So all these, things I'm showing you here, LCSs, LGSs, selling to them, Facebook Marketplace, you don't need that built up credibility to sell Pokemon product because you just don't really need it. That's not really how these platforms, I guess work compared to like eBay, which I'll show you guys here, which is what I'm going to get to. But Facebook, it does help to have credibility, but it's not really as needed, I would say, as eBay. And obviously LCS, LGS, you don't really need that. So moving on to what I want to talk about in the main point of this video, me just building up to this point and explaining the other ways to sell, is eBay. So eBay, the reason why this is so important to learn how to, I guess, or just to understand why it's important to build up credibility and, I guess, reliability on eBay is because when this market sees a downturn, right? Selling on Facebook Marketplace, selling to LCS and LGSs, it's not going to be the same as it is right now. Because right now, a lot of these stores that are buying product at 70, 80, some even a little bit higher than that percent off market price paying cash, when this market sees a downturn and these stores can buy from distributors readily, they're not going to be paying that high of amount, right? Because why would they pay 80% of market price on a product, obviously it being in print, when they can just buy from their distributor probably at a lower cost, right? It wouldn't make any sense. On out of print product, they may still be buying it maybe 70-80% because they can't buy from distribution. But for the newer products that they can buy from distribution, they're not going to be buying at that same percentage that they are right now. And with that being said, you're probably not going to be able to sell to them or even want to sell to them because you'll be taking a huge hit, selling to them if they're only paying, let's say, 60% on cash. Same thing, Facebook Marketplace. I tried to sell a sealed product a few years ago. This is when the market was, dead. And yeah, locally, depending on what you're selling, it's not the easiest thing ever. It really also depends where you live. Like if you live in the middle of nowhere, if you don't live maybe closer to a city or somewhere like that, it might be harder to sell, right? Because right now, there's a lot of hype with Pokemon. There may be a pretty large market, a bigger market than there would be in a down market where right now, a lot of people are just interested maybe in Pokemon, hearing about it in the news, the hype, and they may be into it right now. When the market sees a downturn and all this hype cools down, Facebook Marketplace, you're not going to see as many listings for Pokemon. You're not going to probably see as many buyers, and you're probably not going to be able to get the percentages that you're able to get now selling on Facebook Marketplace because right now It's just, the stuff's hot. But when it's not, you're not going to get the same percentages. So, it leaves me with eBay. eBay, the big thing that eBay has over, selling on Facebook Marketplace or LCSs or LGSs is the wide range, the wide audience that you can sell to, right? So I can sell, on eBay and sell to somebody across the country. I could sell to somebody in like Florida. I could sell to somebody in California. I could sell to somebody in Idaho. It doesn't matter, right? It's all across the country. You're getting a bunch of eyes, looking at your listing, and you have a huge market. So even when the market downturns, right, there will still be buyers out there because even when Pokemon sees downturns, there's still large amounts of people that are into Pokemon, right? So it will be easier and probably the best way to go about selling in a down market is on eBay or any online platform. But eBay is the most easiest example to give here. So eBay will be what I'm showing you guys here. So eBay, right? Like I mentioned, for me, I really haven't sold any sealed product yet on eBay, but I have been selling other things just to get my ratings up, right? I'm selling maybe $15, $20 items, maybe like a piece of clothing, maybe like a plushie, something small that people, when you're starting out a new account, won't really be hesitant to buy. If you're trying to sell maybe an electronic device or some sort of valuable item and having no ratings, people might be wary of that, and it might be harder to sell. And or you might be prone to maybe getting some scammers, people saying that, hey, this guy has no ratings, he gave me a faulty thing. You might be more prone to that. So for me, what I've been doing, and I've sold multiple items at this point, I sell clothing pieces, plushies, just random stuff, just to build ratings. And that's what I would highly recommend you guys out there. If you haven't even thought about this, you should probably set up specifically an eBay account, because TCG Player, I would say, is more. I'd say eBay is probably the best way, in my opinion, to go about and selling stuff. And it's easiest. I think eBay is a pretty known platform. I think a lot of people may have already used. So if I were you guys, right, and you have not even set up or sold anything on eBay, and you're investing into Pokemon, and maybe you're new to investing into Pokemon, I highly recommend that you start selling small knickknacks, maybe some clothing piece or whatever, some small item that's worth maybe anywhere from $10 to $30. Sell it just to get ratings, right? You want to have ratings on your account. You want to have a history on your account of selling stuff, because when you go to sell a Pokemon sealed product, they want to at least know that you have some credibility, right? So if you're going to sell a box of Pokemon cards, that's like $300, $500. If you have 0 ratings, not many people are probably going to want to buy from you because you have no history of selling. People don't know if you package your items well, if you have good customer service, if you respond to your messages. People don't know that. So, if you at least, it doesn't have to be Pokemon related, but if you at least have sales of items and feedback and positive feedback, people are more willing to buy from you, and it'll be easier to sell in the future. But if you don't build up your credibility right now and you wait for this market to downturn and then you have to sell some product, let's say you have a bill you have to pay or whatever, well, you're going to have to wait a little bit, because if you want to sell a few $100 box off the rip having 0 reviews, things could get a little bit out of hand, in my opinion, because people may say, oh, this person has no reviews, I'm going to buy from him. Say, oh, this person, he said that this wasn't, he didn't point out that, this had this, rip in it or whatever. And it's just going to be hard to sell in general. You may have seen sometimes on eBay, there being some listings of a product, it being cheaper than market price, being the cheapest listing, but you would probably notice that they probably had 0 reviews and they also were a new account. So these are just some things to think about. I guess before we actually get into this downturn of a market, is to set yourself up for success and prepare for it, because like I said, when the time comes, when this market sees a downturn, selling to these LCSs, LGSs, Facebook Marketplace, they're not going to be as great of an option to sell on, because it's going to be much harder to sell. You're not going to get the same percentages that you can get right now selling on them. And eBay then is probably going to be your friend, because eBay is just a wide range of people in the United States or wherever you're at, right? To sell to. And it'll be much easier to sell on eBay, especially these higher value boxes, when the market sees a downturn. And you just want to build up your credibility, reputability on eBay before it happens, so that when you want to sell your stuff, you have that credibility built in, you have that account age, and you'll be set up. So that's just my advice. This is more of a just, I guess, informational video about, I guess, just how to set yourself up for success to sell your Pokemon products. And I, don't really see, I guess, many people talking about this. Just, I guess this maybe niche topic, but I feel like it is really important, especially if you're just starting to invest and you may not be thinking about this. But I've already thought about this previously, which is why within the past like 6 months I've been just selling things here and there, whatever, just around my room or the house that I don't need. I'll just sell something, make a little bit of money, but just to gain some reviews. And make sure, if you're watching to the end of this video, make sure you take the time to package your stuff up well and make things look presentable. For me, I also always add a packing slip with like a nice note. You can search up how to do that. It's very simple. Like when you print out your packing slip, there's an option when you scroll down to add a packing slip, and you can like click on a note. That's what I do. I've actually gotten positive feedback saying that they actually appreciate the note. So I would do that if I were you guys. Pack your stuff well. I always take a lot of time to package stuff, even if it's cheap. Do not skimp out on packaging. I'm telling you, I don't no matter what the value is or the whatever I'm selling, I package it extremely well. It will help you in the long term. If people see reviews of good packaging and stuff, especially when they're buying a Pokemon product, it's gonna help you. So that's just my little advice there at the end. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. I know this video maybe is a little bit boring, but definitely I think this is some valuable information for people out there to know that when this market sees a downturn, you're gonna want to be set up for success. Right now, start selling some stuff on eBay, some small stuff, get your reputability and your account age, and you'll be set up. So that's all I have for you guys here today. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you on the next one.